Beneath the glow of wavering streetlights, a weary man in weathered boots makes his way along a wet roadway. His young daughter rests peacefully on his shoulder. Tonight, however, fate brings another child into his world, a sightless girl shaking with fear in the darkness. Without knowing the danger ahead, he takes her with him. Her family ties connect to the city's most dangerous motorcycle brotherhood. Before our tale begins, let us know your location as you follow along. Please consider subscribing. It helps us reach our initial 1,000 followers and deliver more uplifting narratives daily. Ashwood streets became treacherous once darkness fell. The air carried scents of fuel, tobacco, and hidden truths. Despite this, Theo Harker, aged 35, continued his nightly walks. As a father, raising 7-year-old Juniper alone, he faced a world that offered little kindness. His evenings were filled with manual labor, moving cargo at shipping docks, cleaning equipment at repair shops, any work that provided funds for footwear and groceries. Though his back ached from years of struggle, his gaze held unwavering compassion. Juniper, with messy curls and notebooks filled with mythical creatures, gave him purpose to persevere. After losing her mother during delivery, Theo vowed his child would never experience abandonment. Extended periods of quiet and isolation were familiar to him. However, on this particular Thursday, as storm clouds gathered overhead and vehicle headlights created sharp patterns on the damp asphalt, everything changed. Near an abandoned transit shelter, Theo detected the softest whimper, so quiet it nearly disappeared beneath the rainfall. He stopped walking. Behind him, the harbor facilities creaked in the wind with ropes striking metal supports. Turning his head carefully, he listened once more. The crying wasn't from Juniper. She remained at their apartment, art supplies spread across the floor. This sound was different, delicate and vulnerable. His boots splashed through puddles toward the covered waiting area. A weak overhead light revealed a small figure pressed against the wall. A young girl, perhaps 8 or 9 years old, wore a torn dress and had bloodied knees. Her head turned toward his approaching footsteps, but her unfocused, clouded eyes couldn't track his movement. She couldn't see. Crouching down, Theo spoke softly. "Hello there. Are you injured?" She pulled back, gripping a broken white cane beside her tighter. "I am unable to locate my home," she said in a shaking voice. "I've been wandering for hours." Theo's heart grew heavy. No vehicles stopped to help. No residents emerged from nearby buildings. Only him, this unknown child, and the relentless downpour. He noticed her unprotected feet, red from the cold pavement. She had been lost far too long. The girl's lips trembled. "I'm called Calla," she said hesitantly, as if even speaking her name was frightening. Theo responded with understanding. "I'm Theo. I have a daughter around your age." He removed his outer shirt, wrapping it around her small shoulders. She held onto the material as if it provided armor against the world. The storm intensified, wind whipping across the shelter. He thought of Juniper at home, drawing her fantasy creatures while waiting for his return. But abandoning this child was unthinkable. "Do you remember an address or street name?" Theo inquired. Calla shook her head negatively. "My father told me if I became lost, I should wait where I was, but nobody has come." Her voice broke when she mentioned her father. Theo's throat constricted. He extended his hand. "Would you trust me to help you find your way home?" She hesitated, her fingers shaking. Then slowly she agreed and placed her tiny palm in his. Lightning illuminate the sky, revealing her injuries clearly. Theo made a silent vow. Whoever was responsible for her condition would be held accountable. Theo knelt and offered, "Climb onto my back, little one." "Calla." The rainfall became heavier, soaking through his remaining shirt. Calla's face rested against his shoulder. "This feels secure," she whispered, her voice already growing drowsy from exhaustion. Theo passed closed pawn stores and glowing tavern signs, walking by strangers who glanced once before looking away. Nobody questioned why a rough, exhausted man carried a blind child through the storm. Nobody showed concern, but Theo cared deeply. Each footstep resonated louder than thunder, a promise to bring her somewhere safe. Still, he couldn't escape his growing worry. Who was her father? Why hadn't anyone begun searching? He carried more than just a lost child. He carried an unsolved puzzle. After 2 miles, Theo sought shelter under a closed restaurant's awning. Calla stirred against him. "Have we reached home?" she asked weakly. "Not quite yet," he replied softly. "You'll recognize it when we get there." She nodded, her eyelids heavy. He pulled the shirt tighter around her, though he was now shivering. A passing truck slowed, its headlights washing over them. Briefly, Theo hoped someone might offer assistance. Instead, the driver yelled, "Find a motel!" before laughing and driving away. Theo's jaw clenched. People always expected the worst from men like him, tired, unshaven, walking alone in the rain. He continued forward. Every block merged into the next. Calla hummed occasionally quietly as if reminding herself the world still existed. Finally, at a convenience store, Theo noticed a bulletin board covered in plastic. His stomach dropped. A missing child poster. The photograph was unclear but unmistakable. Calla, same round face, same braided hair. Below it, bold text read, "Daughter of Iron Vultures Motorcycle Club President, reward available." Theo froze, his breath catching. Iron Vultures, Ashwood's outlaw biker organization, infamous for violent confrontations and ruthless collection methods. He'd witnessed their black jackets roar through downtown like an approaching storm, dangerous men loyal only to their brotherhood. And this girl, this blind, trembling child clinging to his back, belonged to their leader. Calla moved slightly. "What's wrong?" she asked. He kept his voice calm. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just resting for a moment." His thoughts raced. He wanted to believe perhaps the poster was old. Maybe the gang had changed, but street rumors told a different story. These men inspired fear because they ruled through force, not compassion. What would they do to a stranger carrying their missing child? Would they offer reward or seek revenge? Theo pressed onward, each step now weighted with greater risk. He wasn't certain what posed more danger, keeping Calla with him or returning her to them. The storm weakened, but inside Theo, a new tempest began. He arrived home to find Juniper waiting by the door, crayons scattered around, her hair falling across her large, inquisitive eyes. "Dad, who is she?" she asked, staring at Calla on his back. Theo gently lowered the girl. "This is Calla." She became lost. Juniper knelt, offering her a dragon drawing. "He protects people," she said seriously. Calla touched the paper lightly, smiling faintly. "It's beautiful." Something unspoken connected them. Two children finding comfort in shared innocence. Theo watched, his chest tightening. He warmed soup, encouraging both girls to eat. Calla barely finished half her portion before sleep overcame her on the sofa. Juniper curled up beside her, already protective. Theo sat at the table, staring at the poster he'd removed, now crumpled in his fist. The Iron Vultures had their headquarters miles west, across the industrial district. He'd heard stories about their leader, Rafe O'Connell, a man as feared as he was untouchable. Now Theo understood he posse. Said the one thing Rafe would kill to recover. "No matter what occurs, I won't abandon you," he whispered. She nodded against his shoulder, small and trusting. Theo felt the burden of two lives, his da. By evening, the clubhouse appeared, a low brick structure behind Chain Lake, its parking area filled with motorcycles gleaming under floodlights. Laughter and shouted profanity echoed out. Theo's mouth went dry. He adjusted Calla one final time before approaching the gate. A guard wearing a leather vest stopped him. "What's this about?" Theo steadied his voice. "Her name is Calla. She's been missing." The guard's smirk disappeared. He opened the gate and called out, "Boss! Boss! Get out here now!" Moments later, the door burst open. Rafe O'Connell emerged, broad-shouldered and scarred, his beard streaked with silver. His eyes found Calla, and the hardened man broke down. "My baby girl," he shouted, rushing forward. Theo carefully lowered her. Calla's arms stretched wide. "Daddy!" Her voice cracked with emotion. Rafe swept her up, embracing her so tightly she squealed with joy. Tears streamed down the biker leader's weathered cheeks. The crowd fell silent. For a moment, time stood still. Then all attention returned to Theo. The silence felt as heavy as thunder. Rafe's expression hardened through his tears. "Where did you discover her?" His voice was low and threatening. Theo swallowed hard. "At a bus stop. She was alone." Rafe's nostrils flared. "And you thought what? To keep her? To hold her for ransom?" The bikers around them laughed darkly, moving closer. Theo raised his hands. "I only brought her back, that's all." Calla tugged on her father's beard. "He carried me, Daddy, throughout the entire night. He kept me safe." The men froze. Rafe's jaw tensed as he studied Theo, the worn boots, exhausted eyes, trembling hands that shook from fatigue, not fear. He recognized honesty there. Slowly, Rafe's anger cracked. He barked at his men. "Step back!" They hesitated. "I said step back!" The bikers shuffled away reluctantly. Calla buried her face against Rafe's chest. He turned. Ed back to Theo, his voice rougher now. You have no idea what you just walked into, do you? Theo shook his head. Only that she needed someone. For the first time, Rafe's eyes softened. Inside the clubhouse, smoke curled around neon lighting. Photographs of motorcycles and battles decorated the walls. Rafe sat with Calla on his lap, brushing her tangled hair. The room, once rowdy, had become respectfully quiet. Theo stood uncertainly while bikers whispered at the edges. Rafe finally spoke. Men like me don't have many gentle things in our lives. Calla is the only light I possess, and her blindness makes the world crueler to her. Someone wanted to harm her. You prevented that. Theo shifted uncomfortably. I didn't prevent much, just walked her home. Rafe studied him carefully. Many people saw her. None helped. You did. He leaned forward. Do you have children? Theo nodded. A daughter? Then you understand, Rafe said quietly. The bikers watched, confused by their leader's gentleness. But Rafe didn't care. He recognized something in Theo that most men missed. Decency carved from struggle, something rare enough to honor. The night stretched long. Rafe ordered food, placing a plate before Theo. Theo hesitated but ate slowly, hunger gnawing at him. Calla leaned against her father, finally safe, yet uneasiness still clung to Theo. She's home now, he said. I should leave. Rafe frowned. You plan to return to nothing? He asked. You think I can't see it? You're running on empty, man. Theo stiffened. I'm managing. Rafe slammed his fist on the table, startling everyone. You carried my daughter for miles through a storm. Don't tell me you're managing fine. Silence followed. Theo looked down, ashamed. He'd spent so long just surviving that he'd forgotten what being truly seen felt like. Calla reached for him timidly. Thank you, Theo. Her small voice shattered the tension like glass. The room fell completely silent. Rafe observed the scene, his blind daughter thanking a stranger as if he were her hero. For the first time in years, Rafe felt respect instead of rage, and it shook him deeply. The following morning, Theo prepared to leave. Calla clung to his sleeve. Don't leave yet, she pleaded. Rafe watched, conflicted. He owed this man more than gratitude, but his world wasn't built on kindness. Still, something inside him shifted. What work do you do, Theo? He asked. Theo sighed. Various jobs, keeping my child fed. Rafe leaned back, stroking his beard. Ever consider steady employment? Theo blinked. What type? Mechanics, security, anything. You have determination. I need men like that. Theo's heart clenched. He couldn't expose Juniper to biker business, but steady work meant consistent rent and food. No more empty cabinets. Rafe seemed to understand his hesitation. I'm not discussing criminal activity. I'm talking about loyalty. You demonstrated that without knowing me. Calla tugged Theo's sleeve again. Please stay. For a man who'd lost everything except his daughter, the offer carried more weight than any storm he'd weathered. Theo returned home later that day, the poster still crumpled in his pocket, Calla's voice echoing in his mind. Juniper rushed into his arms, relief flooding her small face. He held her tightly, promising himself he'd never risk what little family remained. Yet that night, headlights blazed outside their apartment. Motorcycles rumbled low and steady. Juniper clung to his leg as Theo cautiously opened the door. It was Rafe, with Calla perched on his bike, waving enthusiastically. Daddy says hello, she shouted. Rafe dismounted, handing Theo a thick envelope. For the miles you carried her, he said simply. Theo attempted to refuse, but Rafe pushed it into his pocket. Don't argue. He bent down to Juniper. Your father's a true hero, kid. Don't let him forget it. The engines roared as they departed. Juniper stared wide-eyed. Dad, who was that? Theo exhaled slowly. Someone who understands what it means to love their child. Weeks passed. Theo discovered small envelopes under his apartment door. Cash, groceries, sometimes school supplies. No notes, but he knew the source. Juniper flourished, her sketchbooks filling with brighter dragons. Theo continued working, but life felt lighter, less hopeless. One evening, while repairing a neighbor's plumbing, he heard motorcycles outside. Juniper ran to the window. It's Calla, she exclaimed. Indeed, Calla was there, guided by Rafe, clutching a stuffed dragon based on Juniper's drawing. The girls embraced like sisters, blindness no obstacle. Rafe nodded at Theo, no words needed, just respect. For once, Theo didn't feel like an outsider in his own city. He felt part of something larger, an invisible bond forged by love and loyalty. Calla's laughter filled the street, pure and free. Theo realized then that sometimes family isn't determined by blood, but by moments of trust in the rain, moments when one tired man chooses not to pass by someone small and lost. The bond strengthened. Calla and Juniper spent weekends together, creating worlds only children could imagine. Rafe visited infrequently, but when he did, he treated Theo not as someone in his debt, but as an equal. The city still whispered fearfully about the iron vultures, but Theo knew another side. Now he saw the man behind the legend, a father terrified of losing his only light. One night, Calla tugged Theo's sleeve. "You remind me of my dad," she said softly, "but you're gentler." Theo swallowed hard, touched in ways he couldn't express. Juniper added, "He's the strongest dad in the world." The room filled with silence, heavy but warm. Theo looked at both girls, recognizing the strange truth. He had rescued Calla, but she had rescued him too, from invisibility, from despair. Months later, trouble arrived. Rival bikers cornered Theo at a hardware store, suspicion in their eyes. "You're the one who carried O'Connell's girl," one sneered. Theo braced for a fight, but before fists could fly, motorcycles roared down the street. Rafe's men surrounded the rivals, steel and thunder. Rafe himself dismounted, pulling Theo to his feet. "He's under my protection," Rafe growled. The rivals scattered. Rafe clapped Theo's shoulder hard. "You don't walk alone anymore." The weight of those words settled deep. Theo, once invisible, now stood protected. This was the strange truth. In carrying a lost child through a storm, he had carried himself into a new life, one where kindness was recognized and loyalty ran deeper than blood. The night in the rain had changed everything. What began as a simple act of human decency had grown into something neither man expected, a brotherhood born not of violence or territory, but of understanding what it meant to protect what you love. And in a city where trust was rare and kindness rarer still, two fathers had found something worth more than gold, the knowledge that they no longer faced the darkness alone. Sometimes the most profound connections are forged in the simplest moments, when we choose compassion over convenience, when we see someone in need and decide to act. In carrying Calla to safety, Theo discovered that helping others often helps us find our own way home. The bond between these two families, born from a stormy night and nurtured by mutual respect, reminds us that family extends beyond blood relations. It encompasses all those who choose to stand beside us when the world grows cold and dark.